Greetings, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Paul and Solution Center for having us today. Really amazing place. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. So, I would like us to start by getting some little bit of an explanation. We've been seeing hashtag W for Life, hashtag Walk for Life. So I'd like to call Ed.
W for Life is the catch-all of a series of endurance events. And those endurance events are going to happen every 2 years over the next decade, the first of which is the walk. And endurance events require mental resilience, which is a key component to mental well-being and mental health. But more than that, we've decided to, pre-COVID, when we were talking about it, not everyone got this, but we've decided to raise the awareness about the correlation between mental health and mental well-being and the natural environment. After COVID, everyone gets it. After all the lockdowns, everyone gets it. I don't need to explain why getting out and getting into the bush is so good for us. We're even hearing now that doctors in Canada are prescribing 2 or 3 or 4 weeks in the bush, in game parks, in conservation areas for people who are having difficulties with their mental health. So there's a big subject. We don't claim to have the answers. We're going to be posing some of the questions, and we're going to be getting some help to explain some of this. So it's bigger than just the walk, and it is W for Life, and it is a correlation between mental health and the natural environment. The theme being reconnecting communities with each other and the natural environment. And communities will play a key part as Nick walks around the lake and we bring that to life. The W itself here is walk. The second endurance event is going to be waves. That's, I've drawn the short straw on that one, is sailing an Arab dhow from Oman down the east coast of Africa and ending where the Zambezi meets the sea. All of this is around the Zambezi ecosystem, and that'll come out in due course as well. The third W will be wind, and one of my partners here is going to be in a hot air balloon from where I've landed back to Big Falls, somewhere on the Zambezi, hopefully the wind blowing in the right direction. Then the next one after that is Wheels for Life, and we're going to have teams of bicyclists coming down each of the main tributaries of the Zambezi, meeting up as they go to cycle the whole length of the Zambezi. So that's 4. The 5th is yet to be nominated and announced, but that's one every 2 years, over 10 years. The result of all of this is not just raising the awareness. This is going to deliver something on the ground. And for that we have a TERRA abbreviation. And the TERRA concept, T-E-R-R-A, the T is training. We're going to be training community wildlife rangers and community welfare nurses. They will provide the interface in the communities with the specialists in parks, with the specialists in the medical environment, where traditionally in some of the more remote areas, we don't have the reach back. Then the E is education, where we need to be educating both locally and internationally. I took somebody to the initial cricket launch with Brendan Taylor on Sunday to help cut the grass. We saw some wildebeest, and he said to me, a Zimbabwean, he said to me he'd never seen a wild animal before. We've got a long way to go to educate ourselves and the wider world the value of nature, the value of our animals, and what they mean to us, not just our mental well-being, but the well-being of the environment as well. Then the R is research. As I say, we don't claim to know the answers, and we've got a lot of investigating to do. The other R is rehabilitation. The rehabilitation side is not just us humans, it's also the bush and working with animals through that. And then the final one is awareness. This is the start. It's a soft media launch. We've got some great people helping us. The sponsors all coming on board have been truly amazing.
So just a little bit of a backstory. Ed was in Dubai a couple of months ago. We were supposed to sit for a 5-minute coffee. It turned out to be a 1.5-hour conversation, and here we are. So thanks, Ed, for that. So you've given the definition of the W for Life, the endurance events, but I wanted Nick to tell us why walking around a crocodile-infested lake in winter, in and around game parks full of lions and all the other wild animals, and carrying a giraffe. Yet in Kariba there are no giraffes. So, Nick,
I was born and brought up here and then moved across to the UK in 2000. I fell in love with Kariba when I was a child, and there's always been in the back of my mind the thought that I'd like to do this walk. And so it's developed from there, and Ed was explaining stuff that I don't have to go over again. Why the winter? There's a very simple answer to that. It's cooler than the summer. And it's a lot cooler than the UK has been recently, which hit 40 degrees. This is a challenge. It is a challenge, and it hasn't been done before, which is great. So hopefully that little bit of the not been done before will actually attract attention. We're trying to raise global awareness about this correlation between mental health and conservation. The fact that we need nature. We need nature to help keep us happy. Ed has pointed out that COVID has thrown this into stark reality, and it has. There's all sorts of research looking into it now, and I'll just quote one little one where I can't remember the exact figures, but there was an Australian study done a few years ago where they looked at the happiness level of people who use national parks and open spaces, and not just while they were there, but when they went back to work, and the length of happiness and all that sort of thing. And effectively, they worked out that if people just went out into the bush or into parks or into wherever it might be in the world that you've got this green space, that they would be saving the pharmaceutical industry. Now this is where we've got to be quite careful, because Big Pharma won't like this, but effectively governments, a couple of $1 trillion a year. The cost of conservation in the world is around about $400 to $600 billion a year. So you just do the sums, and actually that $400 to $600 billion is suddenly very small when it comes to saving on the cost of looking after your employees, looking after the people of the world. So the walk will be involving different legs, and some of those legs will be focusing on mental health. Some of the legs will be focusing on conservation. We're going to be hoping to be having conversations with people from around the world, depending on our connectivity where we are. And the giraffe, so those are the grown-up conversations. This giraffe is actually going to be chatting to children around the world. And hopefully the children will be able to start interacting with the giraffe, currently known as Tweezer. But I'd very much like to put out a sort of challenge there to some of the children around the world to come up with a name before the walk starts, because that giraffe is going to be telling about baobab trees, what elephant dung is, how happy people can be outside and all that sort of thing. The other important thing is that we will be talking to and interacting with the communities there. There's all sorts of people with mental health problems. Some of them are of what we call first world mental health problems, too much phone time, too much city, not enough open space. But the other end of the spectrum is people living on the edge of national parks and the periphery of national parks. They're the ones that are getting hammered by elephants. They're the ones whose children are being taken by lions. They've got their mental health problems as well. And I don't think we know enough about those. So we'll be hopefully talking a lot to those people and finding out just what makes them tick, what they want out of life as well, and what would make them happier.
Are you going to finish the walk? Okay. Just making sure. Just making sure. The W series, which means this is not a one-time event. So to our sponsors, this is not a one-time event. We are looking at a much bigger scale. And I think the mental health situation globally is in a precarious situation. Another point that was mentioned, World Ranger Day, human-wildlife conflict. We have one of our key sponsors, Zambesia, who are in the conservation space. So I'd like to call Robin to just give us a few remarks on the work that they're doing around conservation within the Zambezi region.
Funny enough, Nick also works with us at the Zambesia Conservation Alliance. He's been with us now for about a year and a half. How did we get into working in a conservation organization? It's a bit of a long story, but a short part of it is I've been in tourism for nearly 30 years now. COVID came along. My brother and I, made a commitment that we would establish the Zambesia Conservation Alliance to start giving back. We're not conservation practitioners as such. We're not PhD students or field rangers or anything like that. So what we could give conservation was our time and our energy and what we had learned from the tourism industry, which is some marketing. So we thought an alliance would be a good thing because there's all these individual organizations out there doing great work on the ground, many of them on the boundaries of our big parks that work with local communities in the human-wildlife conflict zones, and they often struggle for income. So what we could do is, like we were doing in the tourism industry, marketing lodges and operations, is we could set up an organization that marketed the work that these guys are doing. So it's early days, we're 2.5 years in. Zambesia is a lovely term for our organization because it's a collective for the Zambezi Basin. And it sort of encompasses the 7 countries of the Zambezi Basin. And we've just got 22 outreach partners so far that we've signed up, and we're now starting to try and raise funds for them. We've set up a 501c in the States, and we've set up a not-for-profit in the UK, and we're in the process of setting up a foundation in Mauritius. So each one of these outreach partners will have a cost center in this foundation in Mauritius, and we will then endeavor to start helping them raise funds in these markets. So yeah, look out for us in the time to come. We're very fortunate that Nick is on our team. Like I say, he's been with us for 1.5 years. And I just can't remember where you applied for leave for this 2 months. Voluntary worker is spending a huge amount of time working with us. Yeah, we look forward to following.
Thank you. I would like to hand this time now to Vicky.
I'm really honored to be here, really excited to be part of a conversation that involves something that I'm personally passionate about, mental health. I'm really excited, you know, when I heard about all this, you know, Nick is talking about mental health, then there is conservation. You know, there's always that tongue twister, conservation, conversation. But we are having a conversation about conservation and mental health. For us Africans, when we say somebody has got a mental health issue, what do you think about? Mamepo? Anopenga. Anopenga. We think of the madman in the street who is carrying, you know, those things and just, that's a mental health issue. But when people talk about mental health, that's what we think about. I have suffered mental health challenges. Can you tell mental health anywhere? Can you tell this person tried to commit suicide 3 times? Can you tell this person was treated for clinical depression? Can you tell this person lost a child? I locked myself up in a room 2 weeks. I didn't want to see anybody or talk to anyone. That's mental health. These days we just talk about COVID. COVID. Old Mutual is talking COVID. Patsime is talking COVID. But we don't realize that COVID came carrying mental health issues. And we don't talk about those mental health issues. I only started speaking about it last month. The response that I got, because people were identifying, saying, that Vicky who reads news tried to commit suicide. Never. Why? Because when they look at me, they see the lashes, you see the lipstick, you see the smile, but there is nobody who knows the tear that I would have to wipe before I smile for the camera and before you see me. What makes me to be able to smile even though deep inside I am breaking? I call that a coping strategy or a coping skill, which is, when we then look at it, nature You know, if you've ever been depressed, you don't want to come out of a room. You are content. When you are depressed, you know, your life can just be from the bed, I go to the bathroom, and then I'm back, and then I'm looking at the ceiling, like that. Is there anybody who will wake up one day and say, tomorrow, I'm going to be an alcoholic? From tomorrow, I am just going to, I'm just going to kill myself. What we are seeing now, what we are reading about, are the results of mental health. We tend to not pay attention so much to the mental health issue on its own. And then what we then see are the results of it. People don't want to talk about mental health because they are shy to be associated with it. They will call me mad. They will call me insane. They will classify me somewhere. So long as you have a mind, you've got mental health. You're looking at me, you actually have mental health issues. We all have mental health issues, but we need to know how to deal with them. We can never be able to name all the problems that we have, but your work environment can cause mental health issues. And you end up going in the bathroom, you know, and, you know, that boss of mine, you know, Rob, you sniff, 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 and then you go back to your desk. Nobody has seen me there, but I'm trying to deal with that boss of mine who's giving me a problem. But one sniff, it will lead to 2 sniffs, 3, 10 a day, up until I'm locked up somewhere. We need to deal with the root cause. Oliver Mtukudzi sang a song. We know Oliver Mtukudzi, right? And he said, Chikonzero chaita kuti musoro uteme. The reason that has made that headache, you to have that headache, that is what mental health is. And what are the skills, what are the strategies that we need in order to be able to deal with them? Nature is one of them.
Briefly is not going to cut it, unfortunately. Because this is a lifetime problem. Guys, like what Vicky's saying, every single one of us here has got a mental health issue. Every single one of us. You might not realize it, but you do. And today I'm going to just briefly highlight a few areas that are problematic in all our lives. So, there is a guy called Otto Rank. He did some work, some research in the 1940s, and he looked at what he called the trauma of birth. Okay? And this is where we all came from. We've all been born, right? So Otto Rank spoke about how the trauma of birth affects mother and baby. So we are born in trauma. We're born with trauma. We can get stuck in the birth canal, and that can be a source of our anxiety today. I might have anxiety and I don't even know why I've got anxiety, but I've heard that my labor took 6 hours and my head was too big. I was struggling to get out of that birth canal. But I don't remember that. I'm here. I've been walking for the past 46 years. I don't remember what happened through the birth canal. But I'm just anxious. I don't know why. Whenever I get into a confined space, I feel anxious. I feel like I'm going to die. I feel panicky. And I'm shaking. Nobody can tell me why I'm struggling with this. And we have our psychiatrists that will say to you, you need some diazepam, or you need some anxiolytics of some sort to help you cope with your anxiety. But like what Vicky said, nobody can see what actually triggered that anxiety. Nobody understands what was going on when I was born. Okay? So trauma, that initial trauma is at the core of a lot of what we then struggle with. If that goes unresolved, again, remember mom was in that trauma with me. She's probably struggling with postnatal depression herself. So we both struggling in that same space. That further down the line ends up adding on to other issues. So when we're actually talking trauma, we are traumatized all the time. It's not one big event. It's last week I was traumatized. I broke an egg and I was trying to have breakfast. And what came out of that egg was not what I was expecting. That actually traumatized me. A little cheek came out. I was expecting an egg. So I was like, what's going on here? Yeah? So trauma is always happening to us. We witness a car accident, we hear Vicky talking about suicides. All those things kind of traumatize us. It disturbs our minds. So we actually need to understand how to deal with those issues. So when we're talking about mental health, generally, when Vicky asked the question, I was going to say, guys, the most simple of definitions that I would give you is the difference between what you believe and what your reality is. That's as easy as I would put it. The further away it is, the more you're going to struggle. So when you come to my clinic for therapy, I'm going to try and help you bring those two as close together as possible. So I was given 1 minute, I'll stop here.
Did you say when you were born you had a big head?
Can you believe that?
Guess it shrunk then, right? But nice. But what I picked up, what you're trying to say, in other words, there is no problem which is greater than the problem that you have. You could have drowned in thought you were about to drown in a pond, and then someone drowned in a big whatever. It still causes mental health challenges. You cannot say because you are going through this, Vicky, that is too small, because you are going through this, that is, you gotta be strong. And according to research, the number of men that commit suicide, Nick, is higher than that of women. Because men, we take it as a man. You don't cry.
There were some stats in the Herald 2-3 days ago about that. It actually said more men die of suicide than women, but there was an interesting twist to that. More women attempt suicide than men. Well, but the reason why is because when men attempt, they attempt to achieve. They succeed at it.
Exactly, but I like that. But don't you also think, men, we have a lot of abusive men, right? Ladies, say amen in the house. But I think sometimes the reason why we get abuse more coming from men, women do abuse as well, don't get me wrong, is because men are holding on to something, they are not letting it out. It's easy for her to then come to me after this and say, Vicky, how did you go through this? Because I'm going through that. But for Rob to come and say, Vicky, yesterday I tried to commit suicide, he will not. So we need to talk. Men, why don't we do that? I'm really excited because Nick, this journey, it's a man ahead and talking about mental health. Men just need to be taught to speak. I wish I could say, can all the men just stand and start crying so that you can listen? But men, you need to speak. So that's why I just wanted to take it here, to say, just that walk. For those that can join, he was saying, but you can join when we, finish the walk. It will just do something. So, yes.
I was just going to say there's something else. Having spent some time in the UK, there's a lot of men there that support Man United. What we're finding is the ones that move to Liverpool.
Now I want to talk about linking the two. Nick did say earlier on you need to link the two, environment and mental health. Why are we doing it? So the major reason is it's a coping mechanism. As you said, he's gonna have some fresh air, time to think, time to relax. So he was like, you guys need to join in. So coping mechanism number 1 is walking. Coping mechanism number 2, I think Lake was doing, is cooking, cleaning, all that stuff. So we need to get out of our environments. That's what the walk is all about. Get out of that environment that you're in. Vicky did say that she was cooped up in a room. Dog came in and said, get out of that room. So that's what we need to do. Get out of our safe spaces, take a walk, take a drive, take a run. I was told by Nick that you need to take a walk. I was like, no, I'm too lazy. I can't even walk, I'm too lazy. But the major aim is for us to walk. It's for us to clear our minds. It's for us to have a peace of mind that you can think things through. For example, if I do ask ladies, if you take a walk, go somewhere, drink, lunch, how do you guys feel after that? Invigorated. Happy. As you see, you guys are happy about it. So, alive, as Vicky said. So, as a means to coping with mental health, the first thing that everyone has to understand, my brother did say you need to know what mental health is. I think everyone has explained what mental health is. But the major thing that I think we left out is accepting that I have a problem. People don't accept that I have a problem. People don't accept that I've got depression, I'm stressed, I'm going through life. Everyone was affected by COVID in various ways, in various means, but some people don't accept that, no, I am going through this and I need help. Nick, you study his walk. You start your walk from the gate to the next corner. If you can do that, you put it on a video, you show us what you've been doing. Next time you take the next road to the next road and tell us how you feel, how the environment is changing you, the impact's all about that. You can't take the 2-month walk, but you take a walk from the gate to the corner. You can do that, everyone can do that. At least take a video and then show us how the environment is affecting you. Thank you very much.
We're also going to talk about the community health systems. Do the communities, the clinics actually have people or manpower who can deal with mental health issues? Or you walk into the clinic, they check your temperature, they check your blood pressure, they say you're because they don't understand that you might actually be depressed and it's actually something that needs attention to. So we will look at the community health systems. Are they functional? Are they helping when it comes to mental health issues? And at the end of the walk, we're then going to try and tie it all together. To come and say, we have learned so much. How do we take it forward? As we say, W4 Life is a series. What are we going to take on as the next action steps? By the time we start the Wind for Life, we should be engaging the next stage of action points and the next stage of discussions. So there is a whole lot of stuff that still needs to be done, a whole lot of conversations that are still going to come. So please join us, participate, follow the hashtag.